we said earlier, we are in the main watch now. Jamaican Laws Under Pressure, Part 2. Our guest for this segment, we have Elyssa Koren returning, and she's the director of the UN agency in New York, and she is from Alliance Defending Freedom International, and she's stationed as a advocate at the United Nations, where she frequently interfaces with persons from all across the globe as it relates to defending Christian rights from the perspective of maintaining that Judeo Christian ethic in the laws and values of nations. Good morning again, Miss Corin. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me back. How are you? I'm doing well.
Great, 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 great. Now, in your article that was published in Jamaica's Gleaner on 26 March 2021, you indicated that if Jamaica capitulates by changing its laws to, and I'm paraphrasing,
Mhm.
changes by changing its laws to allow for certain acts and behaviors to become lawful, such as abortion and sexual activity that does not conform to biology per se, that it could have a domino effect in the Caribbean. Why did you say so in relation to if Jamaica capitulates, it could have a domino effect in the Caribbean?
Mhm. I think really there's two reasons to answer this question. The first, and I think it's well known, just is simply the leadership role that Jamaica plays in the region. Jamaica is a large country with a very significant national tradition, and it's clear that every country has the right and the responsibility really to forge its own way on these issues. But if Jamaica is to fall, is to capitulate, it would be undeniable that the pressure on other countries in the Caribbean would be immense. But the second thing is a bit more technical, and I think it has to do with the way that the Caribbean nations interact with each other under the umbrella of CARICOM, let's say. And so at the international institutions, at the UN in particular, the way that the countries interact together is really quite regimented, and CARICOM provides this platform or this mechanism for them to engage together. And so most frequently, instead of having one country go forward at the UN with a position, you have them unite and to take a position together as CARICOM. And unfortunately, the problem with this is that it really tends to have a lowest common denominator effect. So the second you have countries start to liberalize on these issues or start to break on these issues, it really dampens the enthusiasm of the group to stand strong in favor of traditional values and in favor of really your own national laws and policies. So you can just see that if Jamaica, for example, being such a large and kind of dominant force in the group, were to change its laws at the end of the day, this would really affect the way in which all of the countries would engage together within CARICOM.
I think we've lost Stokeley Elyssa. Let's see if we can get him back on the stream.
No problem. I know it well. I'm here.
Great. All right, listeners, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll connect with Stokeley once again. This is Love 101.
Manchester Cooperative Credit Union has been serving the parish of Manchester for over 70 years. Since then, our products and services have evolved to suit your changing needs. You've made us your choice as a sound financial partner, and today we stand proud of our achievements, satisfied members, and a name that is respected across the industry. Thank you, Manchester, for making us your financial institution of choice. Not yet a member? Come on board with us. We are Manchester Cooperative Credit Union, where service exceeds expectation.
This is a special announcement from Love 101 and Love Television. Our general offices will be closed to the public at 12 noon on Holy Thursday, April 1 through to Easter Monday, April 5, and will reopen on Tuesday, April 6 at 8:30 a.m. Programs and commercials for the period Friday, April 2 through to Tuesday, April 6 should be submitted by 9 a.m. on Thursday, April 1, and obituaries and notices by 10 a.m. on the same day to ensure scheduling for broadcast. Love 101 and Love TV wish for you and yours a holy and peaceful Easter weekend.
Here is a reminder from Love 101, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. Be kind to address stigma during this pandemic. Share the latest facts and avoid exaggerating stories. Show solidarity with affected persons and tell the stories of persons who have experienced the virus. I am Kimberly Levy from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
Jamaica. Our way of life is being affected, but our path to progress is not. Flow has continued to build its network infrastructure to prepare for times like these, to ensure that your connections to everything important are strong and reliable. And if you are a current Flow Home Service customer, upgraded services may be available in your area. Learning from home is smarter, and working from home is stronger than ever. I am Stephen Price, Country Manager of Flow, and this is our commitment. The strength of the Flow network is yours and ready when you need it. Visit your nearest Flow store or discoverflow.co. It is our privilege to serve you.
Hello?
Nadine?
Yeah?
Me just pick up one Maxfield Easterbun up by supermarket phone.
One Maxfield, but nah, go do.
Nadine, that is all I could afford.
Uncle Pat, Daddy, and Jeffrey only eat bun back. And bun only come with front back and back. So where the next back I go come from?
If you want more Maxfield Easterbun, go up at the supermarket or check maxfieldbakery.com.
Yeah, I forgot send credit for put on service then.
Come off of my phone. Sure. Maxfield Easterbun, tweet to the max.
The Jamaica Banana Board, Green Gold, Life, Health and the Environment. The time brought to you by the Jamaica Banana Board is 7:15.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are still in the main watch, and we do apologize again for the various technical challenges we have experienced, which has affected your listenership. We have online Elyssa Koren of Alliance Defending Freedom International, and she is an advocate at the United Nations, where, from a Christian perspective or with a Christian focus, she speaks to persons from many countries, representing many countries, in terms of how to defend their laws. Ms. Corin?
Yes, hi, I am here.
Great having you back again.
Thank
and
you.
you were outlining for us the role that Jamaica takes in the Caribbean, a position of leadership, and then you went on to talk about a technical issue in relation to Jamaica in that regard. Would you like to elaborate on that, please?
Yes, and just to repeat myself, I think it bears repeating. The Caribbean countries don't engage at the international institutions alone. I think there's the understanding, there's the platform for them to go at it together, and that's why CARICOM exists, really to give unity, to give solidity to the region. And so because of this, because the countries represent as a group, as CARICOM, it's really important to consider the dynamics of one country, especially a major country such as Jamaica, changing its laws. So when that, or changing its policies, changing its positions. So when that happens, when a country signals to the international community that it no longer has a stance on abortion, for instance, it follows that the other countries in the group are going to be forced to change as well, or they're going to have to stay silent. Or in some cases, what puts them in a really difficult position is countries have to go at it alone. So they have to break from CARICOM to express national positions that are distinct from the group. And given how close the countries of the Caribbean region are, it really does put them in an awkward position. So it's clear that any sort of unity, any sort of strength of CARICOM really stands, really is best manifest when the group stays together. And so you can see that if Jamaica were to change, if that unfortunate event were to take place, it would have an event not just domestically, but across the region as well.
Okay. Now, you did indicate in your article that Jamaica has very proudly continued to maintain its stance in relation to maintaining the mores and values of our own laws. However, do you see where it's possible, where a time could come where that sort of advocacy could come under increased or increasing threat because of pressures from the westernized nations, the more developed countries or the developed countries? Do you foresee such a time Or do you think Jamaica and other countries like Jamaica can continue to do what it does in terms of continuing to advocate for maintaining the laws and values that it currently has in its legal regime?
Absolutely. I think it's a very real threat. And yes, the assessment is absolutely correct. Jamaica has stood strong alongside many other countries at the UN, consistently saying, no, we don't want to change our laws. No, we don't want to accept language in UN resolutions that violates our national policies. And they've done this in conjunction, not alone, in conjunction with the region. But when you look at the pressure that your country, the region, and really all of the developing world is under, it's immense. And it's difficult for me to imagine how a government can really say no to that unless you take a very strong and very intentional position against it. And so, just in some of the, preliminary, online research, you can come up with documents just to demonstrate how much financial assistance Jamaica is receiving for controversial issues. So, for example, with regard to this Spotlight campaign, this campaign that's, ostensibly for very positive and very much needed reasons of ending violence and discrimination against women, you're getting $8 million alone. Jamaica is getting $8 million alone. UNFPA, the agency of the UN that is the abortion arm of the United Nations, gives close to 17 million to the English and Dutch speaking Caribbean alone. And that is an agency that pretty much exclusively works in the area of sexual and reproductive health. And we know what that means at the UN. That's a code word or a euphemism for abortion promotion. And in that plan, that $17 million plan, they make clear that the goal of the plan, the goal of those funds, is to ensure that all countries allow adolescents, allow minors to access abortion, even though we know that your national laws don't necessarily allow for this. So I think the pressure is very real, and the pressure is primarily financial.
I see. Now, I'm going to pose a question here that, put it this way. It's one thing for you to advocate the way you do, and we laud you for that. However, you have other groups of persons who may not be Christian or who may be Christian but don't agree that our Jamaican laws should stay as they are. They may feel that the position that you are taking, for example, excludes them. And they may even say, well, why don't you at least, as it were, compromise a bit to let the laws be a little bit more inclusive? And it wouldn't be you per se because you're an advocate, but why don't you encourage then nations to amend its laws to make them a little bit more inclusive, to include the mores and values of other groups? What is your response, if any, to such?
Yes. Well, I respect that there is a difference of opinion on these issues. That's why they're so debated, really in all spheres of life. And the UN really is just a microcosm of these, huge cultural fights that we're all experiencing, that we're all living through. And I don't agree. I would say that I take a very strong position in accordance with my faith and my human rights perspective in defense of unborn life. But I do respect that there are people that think that it's important to go other ways. And so what I would say in this position as an international advocate is the only thing I can say is that it's, at the end of the day, it's imperative that Jamaicans decide for Jamaica. And you shouldn't allow the United Nations or any outside influence, any external funding to determine the stance that you take inside your country on this issue, because it is so sensitive and it is so controversial and it touches so many people so closely. What I can say, however, is that you will often hear the argument that your country, that Jamaica, has to liberalize on these issues, has to move forward because international law says it should, because international law says it has to. And that's completely false. And so I just clarify it and leave it there. There's nothing in international law that talks about abortion or that mandates countries to legalize or to liberalize abortion in any way. That's number one. And number two, if you look closely at the way that international law was drafted, countries actually have an obligation to protect the right to life, starting with the unborn. So you can summarize by saying that not only do countries have the sovereign right to maintain the laws that they have protecting the unborn, really they also have a duty. And so from an international legal perspective, your country stands on solid ground. And then whatever debate is going on is one that needs to be conducted domestically and be determined by Jamaicans.
Okay. I won't belabor the point. I'm aware of only one international law document that suggests that the right to life starts from conception. On what basis do you say, however, that there's a duty to protect life from conception? Or you never said conception, but of the unborn.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that's really interesting is if you look at the time and place in which these documents were drafted, the international treaties, they were written at a time where respect for the right to life of the unborn was the norm and was not questioned. And you can see this, one of the documents for the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, the Travaux Préparatoires, the working documents that went into the creation of these documents. They talk about a prohibition on the death penalty for pregnant women. And then they elaborate there, the reason that this is prohibited is because the woman is carrying a child. But you can see more explicit references in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, rights accorded to the child before and after birth, and the importance of ensuring rights across the lifespan.
Understood. In fact, in Jamaica too, although the death penalty hasn't been carried out in Jamaica for decades now, on the Jamaican law books, you cannot hang a pregnant woman. So you can't carry out the death penalty on a pregnant woman. And I believe it's a similar jurisprudential reason, as you just outlined, for a similar jurisprudential reason as you just outlined, Ms. Koren. Now, before we wrap, because we're almost out of time already, and we did lose a little bit of time due to technical difficulties, which we apologize for, what would be, well, before we even get in terms of the way forward, do you know of any other nations, maybe Africa and other parts of the world, that are under similar pressures as Jamaica is in the Caribbean, or is it the focus somewhat on Jamaica as far as through your lens as you see it at the international level?
Yes.
Are other countries across the world under similar pressures, or is Jamaica sort of in a kind of spotlight, as it were?
Yes, you're far from alone. Not that that's a good thing, but at least you're in good company. So I would say that the majority of Africa, the Arab world, all of the Caribbean, most of Latin America, some of the more conservative European states, primarily from Eastern Europe, they all face the same pressure, and that pressure is immense. Obviously, your vulnerability to the pressure is contingent on the amount of foreign assistance that you receive. So if you are a wealthy, oil-rich nation that doesn't receive any foreign assistance, you can probably just say no when the UN comes knocking. But if you're not in that position, the sensitivities are higher. And then with regard to the Caribbean, I mean, the focus is on the Caribbean as a whole. But if you look at the extent to which UNFPA and the other UN agencies have targeted Jamaica, it's clear that that's where they're putting, they're putting their eggs in that basket because of that ripple effect that we talked about.
Understood. Now, in terms of going forward, because we only have a few minutes left, what would be the way forward, you think, for a country like Jamaica?
Mm-hmm. Well, from a
defending its laws and its mores in our legal regime in light of the pressures that you have highlighted.
Right. I think a lot of the fight happens, domestically, happens on the part of you all, and it's, just keeping a close eye on, changes inside your government, allowing these debates to transpire according to democratic processes, allowing for open conversation, nothing secret, nothing hidden when it comes to talking about these issues, really airing them out, because the hope is always that truth will prevail. And so a strong national culture, can help, is what's, essential to keep Jamaica in line on this issue. Of course, accountability, that the government doesn't change, that it doesn't, essentially do some, any sort of backdoor deals on these kinds of things is also very important. And then with regard to the way that the government acts, it's imperative that it just stay the course. So the way that international law, trends and proliferates, if there's this general sense that countries have moved on and have abandoned certain norms in international law, the law will go with it and the UN will go with it. So it's really important that countries kind of make their stand and put a line and say, no, we have these laws and policies. And this is done through official statements at the UN, through submissions to the UN, just to clarify that there are governments that hold these positions, and that Jamaica continues to stay strong. So to continue to voice the national laws and policies of Jamaica is really important to do that in the international sphere.
And similarly, I do hope and pray that Jamaica does maintain its stand. I want to thank you, Ms. Koren, for being a guest this morning. You were with us yesterday. You're back with us today. We are grateful for your time and for your thoughts. And is there a final word or two you want to leave with us before you go today?
Thank you very much. No, it really is my pleasure. And I would just reiterate that Jamaica is an incredible country, as is the Caribbean region. And it's just really imperative that Jamaicans decide for Jamaica and that you all continue the fight on these issues.
Thank you again, Ms. Koren. Now let's take a look at the newspaper, see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing in the major daily newspapers. We will look at that shortly after the break. And we want to thank you for being with us. The Morning Watch will be right back after this break.
This is a special announcement from Love 101 and Love Television. Our general offices will be closed to the public at 12 noon on Holy Thursday, April 1 through to Easter Monday, April 5, and will reopen on Tuesday, April 6 at 8:30 a.m. Programs and commercials for the period Friday, April 2 through to Tuesday, April 6 should be submitted by 9 a.m. on Thursday, April 1, and obituaries and notices by 10 a.m. on the same day to ensure scheduling for broadcast. Love 101 and Love TV wish for you and yours a holy and peaceful Easter weekend.
You are the buzz, 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 buzz. You are the zing, 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 zing. You are the you are the click, 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 click. You are the pop, pop, pop. You are the I in Jamaica. So keep fizzing for the love of it. Pepsi. Nation, baby.
Rain or shine, any weather. When we go bold, we go virgin. Quality paint, no faded colors. When we go bold, we go virgin. Let your imagination run free. Pick a color, any color for the space what you need. When we say it bold, that mean it not feel. Quality in every color, 7-year guarantee. When we go bold, we go virgin. Watch your color. When we go bold, we go virgin. Rain or shine, any color you need. When we go bold, we go virgin.
JN Bank Live Online Banking is your quick and easy banking that's safe and secure. Sign up today. Visit jnbank.com. JN Bank will help you find a way. The time is
7:30, folks, on the Sound of Love.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now let's take a look at the newspaper to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the Jamaica Observer today another concerning story connected to the one we read yesterday. It says, him trick with good. Open quotation, him trick with good. It refers to shocked residents of Christian Gardens in St. Catherine, who refer to the 50-year-old Robert Bakra Fowler, who the police say made certain statements in relation to that woman who was very gruesomely murdered recently. Another story here in the Jamaica Observer, hunt for cop killer. That's the other headline here, hunt for cop killer. And we now turn to the Gleaner. One caption here reads, all courts to close at 11 a.m. Thursday, that is today. All courts to close at 11 a.m. Thursday today. I happen to be aware of that as well as an attorney at law myself. The courts will be closed today at 11 a.m. Another story here. Jamaica expands travel restriction to several South American countries. And those and many more stories in both major daily newspapers. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, what's your plan for the Easter weekend? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook page, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
We all want to go higher. BPM Financial is the way to go higher. At BPM, your dreams are possibility. At BPM Financial, we'll share your hope, help you build, help you save for what life brings you higher in this life.
BPM Financial, taking you higher.
Here is a reminder from Love 101 FM, the family station, as we face the COVID-19 pandemic. To prevent COVID-19, It is safest to avoid physical contact when greeting. A wave, nod, or bow can suffice. Respiratory viruses can be transferred by handshaking. I am Shivani Blair from Love 101, reminding you to protect yourself while protecting others. Stay safe and keep it locked on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back. You're tuned into the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's join Shivani for a look at how our Facebook and WhatsApp friends answer today's question. What's your plan for the Easter weekend? Shivani.
All right, 2 comments there. Eunice says, stay home, eat bun and cheese, play music and dance. Imogene says, pray, eat bun and cheese, cornmeal pudding, and watch my 11 o'clock service, Easter service at my church. All right.
Okay, keep the comments coming in, I suppose, is what we say, sir. Keep the comments coming in. We're now in the second watch, and in our second watch, we're looking at part 2 of a discussion we started not too long ago about the services that the church provides and its role in the building of communities. Back with us today, we have Pastor Bruce Fletcher, Chairman of Operation Save Jamaica, and Dr. Lorraine Cook, Senior Lecturer at the University of the West Indies School of Education. Good morning, Dr. Cook. Good morning, Pastor Fletcher. How are you both?
Good morning, Stokeley. We're fine. Thanks for having us back.
Good morning, Stokeley. Yes, it's great to be back. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good having you back. Now, last time you were with us, you were outlining for us the role that the church has been playing, not in the traditional sense as we understand church, but working through academia to improve the lives of persons in communities, many of whom may not be Christian. We did indicate many of them may not become Christian, but the hope is that at least it will have a positive impact on their lives. Also, you would have by now have had a conference or a symposium on the matter online, and you're back with us today. Can you outline for us how it is you see yourself going forward now in terms of providing for the sort of interventions that are needed in the communities, bearing in mind that you would have gotten some amount of feedback from the relevant stakeholders at your recent conference? And it's not just about the conference or the symposium you had. The reality, as we can see, the crime statistics alone show how much there is a lack of, well, let me put it in a different way. There is an uncouthness in the culture right now. We see the murder rate, we see the kinds of callous ways people treat each other, and we see the lack of relevant attention to how the communities are being dealt with. And going forward now, with crunch time, how do you see yourself playing a pivotal role in really transforming the society for the better, starting with you, Pastor Fletcher, and then we bring in Dr. Cook. Pastor Fletcher?
Yes, good morning again. And I just want to say that to address our crime situation, it's going to need all of us. It's not just the church, it's going to need the policymakers, it's going to need the financial institutions, it's going to need the business people, the media, NGOs. It's going to take all of us to address the crime situation in our nation. And I'd like to carry it a little further, that it is not just a crime we want to address. We want to see communities transform, where people also in our communities can experience a certain level of peace, and out from which they can see Jamaica as a place to raise their family, a place to do business, and a place to live life and enjoy life. So it's while we want to address the crime problem, and that is significant, we also want the 2030 vision to be applicable to all of us in Jamaica. And so as a church, we have recognized that it's going to take all of these stakeholders to make a difference. We have done some things in the communities, and we have seen a certain level of success. But if we're going to have a certain scale of impact, we have to raise the level and the consciousness and the level of partnerships across different stakeholders in order to make a difference. And that's partly why we had this conference. And I think Dr. Cook could just say a little bit more about what took place conference, and then I'll come back and talk about where we go from here. Both of us will talk about where we go from here. So just ask Dr. Cook just to speak a little bit about the conference.
Certainly, Dr. Cook.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Fletcher and Mr. Marshall. Yes, a lot came out of the conference, and I want to really highlight our first keynote speaker, Mr. Courtney Campbell. He acknowledged, as you just said, Stokeley, that the crime rate is high. Okay, that's a given. But he also looked at some of the areas that needs attention in helping to develop, to have a better quality Jamaica, right? He looked at 5 areas: developing life skills in children and adolescents, reducing access to guns. He looked at the importance of bringing about transformation in education, right? Because if there's transformation in education, that will lead to transformation in the job market, and that will lead to better quality life for our young people. He acknowledged that, based on the recent results, only 25% of our approximately 160 high schools are performing at the level required to properly prepare our young people for a prosperous future. And so if our young people are not prepared, their hands are left idle, their minds are left idle. So one of the areas that he purports is that we need transformation in the education system so that there can be greater equality. Right now, there is a great inequality between the quality of education that children from under-resourced receive versus children from the middle and upper, right? He also looked at governance. It was important, he said, that there needs to be a reformation, a transformation in government agencies. The government needs to ensure practice that aligns with best governance principles. And one of the things he said that I found very profound is that all communities should have their garbage collected on schedule. All communities, and all communities include communities in under-resourced under-resourced areas. And so you see an institutional inequality that needs to be addressed from the policymakers level, right? And the conference had a workshop about governance, parliamentary accountability, the master key for development and governance. And this was facilitated by Mrs. Jeanette Calder. And so it's a call. Courtney Campbell called for revisiting of the labor laws. So there's a lot of action areas that emerged from the conference.
Interesting. We're almost upon a break already. Your Pastor Fletcher, you were coming to say something?
No, when they come back, I would talk a little bit more about going forward.
I want to raise a point in terms of the whole matter of males in the society, because whether we like it or not, a lot, and I know you're not focusing on crime only, but whether we like it or not, a lot of the criminal activities is being done by men. And how did that play out in terms of what was discussed at the conference? Because there is a lot being said about men being marginalized or males being marginalized as a whole, and it in turn translates into crime. And if I could share this very briefly, I do recall when I was in high school, I never heard the concept marginalization of males. I never heard it. Never ever heard it. As far as I was concerned, a male and a female can do just as well in life from at any point in time. It was just not heard of. When I went to university, for the first time, I began to hear about this notion of marginalization of males. When I started to work, I actually saw the marginalization of males staring me in the face. Many Jamaican men come under that sort of pressure from, their culture, their society, etc. Was that addressed at the conference? Because I think that is a big elephant in the room.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Pastor.
I wouldn't say that was addressed in a major way at this conference. We tackled it in our previous conference before in 2013. But we have had several, I would say, outcomes since then, because there have been different organizations that we have played a role in helping to.
Fletcher, let me just say this. I went through primary school, I went through high school, heard nothing about marginalization of males. Continue your point, Pastor Fletcher.
All right, so we have recognized that as a major issue, even coming out of our 2013 conference, and since then there's an organization called National Association of the Family, which we are part of, which has had retreats with over 200 boys, at least three over a number of times, addressing that same issue and helping to prepare men for young boys for manhood. And also there's an organization called Men Turn a Nation. And one of the aspects of that is addressing the issue of men turn men, and that's going to be a crucial issue because over time
hold that thought 1 second, Pastor Fletcher. We're going to go to a break and come right back. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
The time by the Ministry of Health, healthy people, healthy environment is
7:45.
Nation, baby.
Rain or shine, any weather. When we go bold, we go virgin. Quality paint, no faded colors. When we go bold, we go virgin. Let your imagination run free. Pick a color, any color for the space what you need. When we say it bold, that mean it not peel. Quality in every color, 7-year guarantee. When we go bold, we go virgin. Watch your color. When we go bold, we go virgin. Rain or shine, the color you need. When we go bold, we go virgin.
Bills to pay and funds to transfer? No problem. I do it all on my time with JN Bank Live Online Banking. It's my simple and secure as that online banking.
Phone credit need a top up? No problem. I do it with JN Bank Live Online Banking.
It's quick and easy with just a few clicks. JN Bank Live, online banking that goes where you go. Sign up today. Visit jnbank.com. JN Bank, we'll help you find a way.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
If you're a farmer or a fisher folk, this one's for you. Sagicor AgriCare Plan. With AgriCare Plan, you can get affordable insurance coverage for you and your family. Life insurance, critical illness coverage, and health insurance for as little as $3,900 every 3 months. Visit your nearest RADA or fisheries office or text AgriCare to 876-322-2384 to apply. Farmers and fisher folk, get the insurance coverage your family deserves today with Sagicor AgriCare Plan.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We have online at this time Pastor Bruce Fletcher, Chairman of Operation Save Jamaica, and Dr. Lorraine Cook, Senior Lecturer, University of the West Indies School of Education. And we are doing a part 2 in this segment in relation to the church partnering with stakeholders to build better communities. Now, Pastor Fletcher, just before the break, you are making a very valid point. Please, a very valuable point, rather. Please continue, sir.
Right. So I would say that coming out of our previous conference, there are 3 organizations that are strongly connected to us. National Association for the Family, which emphasizes the whole matter of addressing the issue of men and helping men to face the challenges that they have, so that they will become the kind of individuals that they need to be in the nation, and taking responsibility for their family, etc. We also have strongly connected to us is Man, Mentor a Nation, and that is addressing the issue of helping men to mentor other men. And then we have Magava, which is Men Against Crime and Violence. And even that one, the person who leads it, his father fathered him out from prison. And so there are 3 organizations that are connected to us. But part of the thing, we are limited because we don't the resources, the policymakers, because we would want to see certain things introduced in schools, coming out of the National Association of the Family, addressing men. You know, we have had some men who have gone into schools, especially inner city schools, who are leaders of organizations, sharing with them and giving them hope and perspective. But we need this to be much wider, much broader, and we need some of these things to be institutionalized in our nation. And so that's why we need all the stakeholders. So as I said before, we have seen some of the success of these programs, some of these organizations work, but unless we raise it to another level, we won't have the impact that we need to have. I don't know if Dr. Cook wants to make any comment.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the impact going forward. I'm not sure which one of you want to start first, but where do you see us going from here? Now you have a lot of ideas on the table that you would love to implement. You can't implement them all at once, but there must be a low-hanging fruit. Where do we take it from here, either of you?
Okay.
I'll start, and then Dr. Cook will come in.
Oh, okay.
Pastor Fletcher, please go ahead.
So one of the things that we want to see coming out of this conference, which the conference was to help this process, was to bring together stakeholders to begin to collaborate for action and transformation. And so with the various stakeholders that attended the conference and become aware of the need, then we can, and we have spoken to them even before the conference. We see the possibility of this stakeholder coalition taking place to raise the level and the scale of what can be done across the nation. So I just said that, and then Dr. Cook.
Okay, Dr. Cook.
To get my mic.
Dr. Cook.
Yes, thanks, Stokeley. In addition, I think the conference brought together the financial institutions and the academics, people who are involved in doing research. And research, as you know, inform decisions. And decisions without research are merely people's opinion. But research brings the evidence and gives voice to the people. So going forward, we want to continue to challenge researchers, as one keynote speaker said at the conference, to do research with the people and not for the people. So we want to challenge transformation in our research practice, that we allow our participants' voices to be very prevalent in the research process and to empower their voices, so that policymakers and those who can bring about action in the community will hear their voices. So I believe this was one of the major things coming out, reminding us that research is not doing for the people, but with the people.
Not just for the people, but with the people. Yes, Pastor, go ahead.
No, I don't know if you wanted that explained a little bit more, but I was going to just mention the fact that as we go forward, we see the possibility of benefiting from research locally as well as from abroad, so that we can have the strongest possible solutions going forward. And I would love for Dr. Cook just to mention one program that is already happening, and it's a partnership between those abroad and here. And so, Dr. Cook, could you just talk a little bit about the SEL program?
Okay, thanks. Presently, we are collaborating, we meaning a team of us from the School of Education and OSJ. We are collaborating with Dr. Michael Wigglesworth from University of Manchester in developing, adapting an intervention in social and emotional learning. And social and emotional learning address conflict management from as early as 5-year-olds. So presently, I have a program, Insights into Children's Temperament, that is already implemented or being implemented into several schools. One school particular, Alpha Infant, that principal she is so excited about what the program has already accomplished in her school, conflict management. She finds the students to be more able to resolve dilemmas without this strong aggression. So much so that Alpha Primary has asked us to come in to continue the process in their grade 1. So
Amazing.
This social and emotional learning program is targeting conflict management from as early as 5-year-olds. And trust me, we have, over the past 3 years, we have gotten excellent feedback from schools and parents. And parents are also involved in the program. And I remember one parent saying to me, ma'am, once upon a time I used to baffle my son, but now I am learning to listen to him and to guide him. So a lot of times, Stokeley, coming back to the old males, a lot of times parents are not equipped to help to manage their children's behavior. And so the same anger that they were brought up with, they continue. So I think this was also mentioned at the conference, right? That we do need more parenting intervention to help parents along in managing their children's behavior.
And that is so important. In fact, we could do an entire program on that alone because, yes, understood. Sometimes you simply just practice what you experience.
Exactly.
Or maybe what seems the easiest thing to do at the time, or what you see others doing. Pastor, any comments on that?
Oh yes, and with some of the programs that have taken place, though, you realize that persons just don't know, and they, once they are informed, they begin to think and operate differently when they relate to their children. But you see, we can't. These things have to be done in a way that has the partnerships, and you always hear me emphasizing that, because we see through partnerships the scale and the comprehensive approach will take place. So you will have the church involved, you will have the parenting commission as well involved, and partnering together with funding to make the thing happen. And these things, if we're talking about a national issue like crime, we have to take this thing on a national level, and all of us being involved to play our different roles to see the difference. So where I think we have seen some level of success, not just by the church, but by government institutions as well, as they have worked in this era of parenting. But I think we can multiply our efforts if there is this coalition and it is taken as a national issue for all of us.
Sounds like you need to have some sort of permanent NGO status where no matter which government is in power, these initiatives are carried out. We're literally out of time already. Any final thoughts either of you would like to leave with us, starting with you, Dr. Cook, in a second or two, then Pastor Fletcher. Dr. Cook?
Yes, I would like to just re-echo what your previous guest said. Jamaica is an incredible country, and we have a responsibility to fight for Jamaica so that our people, our young children, our adolescents will experience quality life in our country. Thank you so much, Stokeley.
I would say that we have celebrated, the emancipation, of slavery, but we need to work on the emancipation of the culture of violence in our communities. And it's going to take effort. We have to be targeted about it. It has to be comprehensive, and it's going to take all of us to make that difference.
Emancipation from the culture of violence, Pastor Fletcher, I think you just introduced what may end up being a part 3. I want to thank both of you for being guests with us this morning, Pastor Bruce Fletcher and Dr. Lorraine Cook. Thank you for your time, first of all, and thank you for the many thoughts you have shared with us in this segment and in the previous one. And for those of you who have been listening, our listeners, we want to thank you for being with us today, and for information on how to get copies of the program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. You can now listen to us, The Morning Watch, by downloading our Love 101 app and stay connected to us, the family station. This has been The Morning Watch. Have a blessed weekend. Join Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint next week, Tuesday, as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall, and get back up in the morning with Siobhan Blair. Keep safe.
Enjoy reduced sugar, reduced sodium, and gluten-free product options with Grace.